Are you ready and comfortable?
I guess.
Just us hanging out?
They open up there for you. Get you.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So, all right, guys. Got a special guest with me today. One of my childhood heroes, no doubt. Got Dick Cole with us. We're going to talk a little bit about Coke plant history, family history, maybe a little Coke Beach history later on, where we're sitting at right now.
All right.
Before we get into the Coke Beach history, I just wanted you to talk, where are we at right now? What does this place mean to you?
It means everything. I've played on this property all my life. I mean, from infant stage
Right.
up till present day.
You told me earlier, like 1949 is when your dad got this place?
I think that's when they bought it. It was 49 or 50, but I think it was 49.
I know
Because I was born in 47, and I was just a young kid when I remember just an infant when I remember coming down here.
Yeah. And I know it's a special place to your whole family. You've
It has been. And
raised some kids down here, grandkids,
yeah, kids and grandkids and
friends.
yeah. I built down here along with my twin brother Bob, and we built together, and it was a real adventure because the property finally trickled down to us and my two cousins.
Okay.
And we came to a division point, and we took the property down the end, and they took the property up here going toward the road.
Okay. I know before y'all built down here, though, that this was the hangout for years and years. I know I come down here a bunch in the boat and
You
pull
did.
in and
We played down here.
big crowds.
There was a boathouse down there and a walkway going to the boathouse.
Yep.
And
I think it was gone by the time I got up and stirring. It was no longer there.
it was a 3-bay boathouse, and came down here one day and it was just gone. It was burnt to the ground.
It burned
Somebody
down.
went in and stole the motor off the bass boat and just burned the whole thing down.
Man.
And,
Well, all right, I'll let you get back to the Coke history now, the Coke plant history. I just wanted to kind of tell everyone where we're at and what this place means to you.
all right.
So I'll just let you kind of take off with it.
Well, what I'll read is the history of the bottling works in Rockwood.
Okay.
I always called it the Coca-Cola Bottling Works, and that's what it was. About 1890, Beecher Smith came to Rockwood from Somerset, Kentucky, and erected a building for storing beer where the ice plant was located. In addition to a saloon of his own, he sold beer and liquor by the other 6 or so saloons in town. Later, he started jobbing soft drinks, getting them either from Chattanooga or Cincinnati. One of the saloons was operated by Swiggerty Brothers, and when beer and liquor were declared illegal in Rockwood around 1900, they went into the bottling business. J. A. Swiggerty and Company, Jim A. Swiggerty and Tom F. Swiggerty got their franchise from the Coca-Cola Bottling Works in Chattanooga on September the 1st, 1903, signed by B.F. Thomas. The first plant was in a one-room building on South Front Avenue. The bottling equipment consisted of a stove to heat water, a tub, a water motor-driven brush, and a foot-powered machine. Deliveries were handled by a one-horse wagon with a maximum load of about 30 cases, 24 bottles. The business grew, and another foot-power unit was added, along with 2 more horses and wagons. The horses were stabled in their own building back of the plant. On November the 14th, 1905, the Swiggerty brothers sold out to H. Fowler and Walter Howard. There were 2 other bottling plants in Rockwood at the time. One operated by Captain Robert F. Thompson was in a building about where the Rockwood Motors is located, and another operated by A.R. Humes and R.H. Wilson was near the present Church of Christ. Right after H. Fowler and Walter Howard bought from Swiggerty, Tom Tarwater and T.A. Wright Sr. bought into the plant. Then H. Fowler, Bart Bacon, and Sewell Howard became owners. The first man to bottle Coca-Cola seems to have been either Beecher Smith's brother, Walter Smith, or Tom Henderson. Other early bottlers were Rue Haggard, John Hill, and Henry Poston. The well-dressed bottler then wore rubber boots, leather apron, long gloves, and a face mask. Too often, these protective guards were left off, and the glass from an exploding bottle found a human mark. Sales in these early days were mostly in the summertime. On the Harriman and Kingston route, the salesman would load up 30 cases, and by leaving early, could make the 15 or so dealers and get back by 8 o'clock at night. About 1913 or 1914, J.F. Tarwater and Jack Tarwater and R.A. Bernard bought the plant and moved into a new building they'd built. The sales continued to increase, and the bottling machinery now consisted of 4-foot powered units and 2 tubs. Around 1916, the building on South Wilder was erected and the plant moved into it. At the same time, the ice plant was installed. The ice was given free to retailers, the purchase being to meet the practices of competition. Around 1919, S.D. Smith purchased the plant, and on September the 7th, 1923, he sold out to J.G. Repshire of Meridian, Mississippi, and C.L. Cole of Greenwood, Mississippi. C.L. Cole was assisted in the operation of the plant by his sons, S.P. Cole, until he moved to Florida, and Charles E. Cole and James T. Cole.
Your daddy?
Yeah. My daddy and my 2 uncles.
That's when they come in the picture. What year was that?
That was in 1919.
Wow.
No. September 1923.
Okay.
And S.P. Cole went to Florida, and he got into the orange business. And he had orange groves. And at one time, he was the first person to come out with frozen orange juice concentrate called Golden 100.
Wow.
And he never got patents on these things, and so they kind of slipped away from him.
Now, was your dad living in Rockwood, or did he come to Rockwood?
He was in Rockwood at that time, he and my uncle, James T. Cole. In those early days, the main outlets were the commissaries of the coal, lumber, and mining companies: Roan Iron Company, Brown Mining Company, Stearns Coal and Lumber Company, New River Coal Company, and Brown Hill Colliery. Delivery was made by way of rail express, shipments being made in metal 6 dozen cases. The first truck was a second-hand Federal bought from Mitchell Brothers of Chattanooga. It was used to haul drinks to the Railway Express office. A second truck, a new Federal, and a third, a new Bevo Anheuser-Busch, were added later. On October the 20th, 1945, J.G. Repshire of Meridian, Mississippi, who was president of the corporation, died, leaving his interest in the Coca-Cola Bottling Works to his wife, Millie T. Repshire, who in turn became president. C.L. Cole continued to run the bottling works with the help of his sons, Charles E. Cole and James T. Cole, until he died on August the 2nd, 1948. Plant continued to operate under the management of C.E. and James T. Cole, with its location on Wilder Avenue, across the street from where Mullen's Lumber Company is located. That's the green building over there where across the Mulno Ice Center, where the break place is now.
It's still standing, right?
Yes. During 1950, construction was started on a new building to house the site of the Coca-Cola Bottling Works. In January of 1951, the plant was moved to its new location on 220 South Kingston Avenue and continued to do business there. In January of 1969, the Coca-Cola Bottling Works added to its territory and also to the list of products produced by purchasing the Dr. Pepper bottling plant in Lenore City, Tennessee, along with the franchise to bottle Dr. Pepper. And that happened when I was in the military. I was in either Alaska or Vietnam at that time, and I can't remember where I was at that time. And that was really a great move they made.
Things are starting to change.
Yeah, the Dr. Pepper company over there was really going down and needed fresh blood. and they saw an opportunity, and they just jumped in and bought it.
Moved that to Rockwood?
Yes, yes. And it really added to the sales because they really built it up and brought it on strong. On July 25th, 1971, Ms. J.G. Millie T. Repsher, president of the corporation, passed away in Meridian, Mississippi. Her daughter, Sarah Mel Repsher Crooks, was elected president to serve in that capacity with her husband, William Battle Crooks Jr., as vice president. And they were great people. They were super great people. And he had a TV station in Meridian, Mississippi, and that was his involvements. And then they both took interest in the plant there at Rockwood. Since moving to its present location, the plant has had 4 additions made to the building. Warehouse was built on Wilder Avenue, where the plant used to be located. All of these, that's the green building that's over there now, the block building, because we went in and tore that old plant down, I mean, piece by piece, and saved a lot of that lumber because it was sawmill oak, and gave a lot of it away and sold a lot of it. And since moving to its present location, the plant has had 4 additions made to the building. I just repeated myself. All these additions and the warehouse were engineered and built under the supervision of C.E. and James T. Cole, managers of the plant. Jimmy Cole was amazing. He was.
Is that your uncle?
Yeah, that's my uncle. He was brilliant in management and accounting, and he really handled that end of it. And my dad handled the, I guess you'd say, ice kicking in.
Yeah.
Because he was the whip cracker.
The enforcer.
Yes, he was the whip cracker. On August 11th, 1976, James T. passed away in UT Hospital at Knoxville after a sudden illness caused by aneurysm. After serving as co-manager and secretary of the corporation since 1948 and working in the plant long before that, everyone there was shocked and lost without him. In December 1976, Richard L. and Robert L. Cole were appointed as co-manager of the plant and served in this capacity with their father, C.E. Cole, who was treasurer. Jeanette C. Cole, appointed secretary of the corporation to fill the vacancy left by James T. Cole. The Coca-Cola Bottling Works in Rockwood has come a long way since 1903. It has grown from a one-room, one-horse delivery system serving Rockwood, Harriman, Kingston to a fleet of 18 diesel trucks. The franchise territory of both Coca-Cola and Dr. Pepper now stretches north to the Kentucky state line, south to Graysville, below Dayton, east to the Knox County line, and west to the Putnam County line outside of Crossville. It also serves Loudoun County and part of Monroe County with Dr. Pepper. The company continued to grow, and it was the oldest manufacturing plant in Roane County that was in continuous operation. And what more can I say?
Is that the only place you remember your dad working?
Oh, yeah.
Growing up, that was it.
Now, when he was in Greenwood, Mississippi, he had a golf course, a miniature golf course, but that was way, way, way back in the day when he was a young fella.
So, when you come back from Vietnam, did you go to work there?
Yes, I did, and I was in Air Force. I served for 4 years. My brother was in the Army, and he got out 2 years before I did. And he went to work at the bottling plant.
So you and Bob both worked there?
Yeah, we both worked there. He was there 2 years before me.
How long did y'all work there?
Till I was 33 years old. And let's see, I don't remember how old I was when I come out of the service.
Yeah.
But
I can remember being in, like at Ridgeview early school, going on tours of the Coke plant and that bottle line.
I think every school kid that went through the Rockwood system and maybe the Roane County system came and did tours of the Coca-Cola.
Yeah, I can remember going. And then later on, my dad worked there.
He did.
And supported us.
He did. He was a
long time.
He was a truck driver.
That's where he retired from.
That's exactly right.
So after the Coke plant, I know when I was in high school, Rockwood Hardware was a place to hang out. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, after the Coke plant, my brother and I were kind of at a loss of what to get into, and we kind of stumbled around for about 2 years.
Did the Coke plant eventually shut down? It did, didn't it?
It did. They after the
bottling
sellout,
part?
they kept it there for what?
How did the sale come about?
Well, I've got that over here, and I'll tell you all about it. Let's see here. Get my notes straightened out. The reason for the sale of the bottling plant. California grocery store chains filed a lawsuit with the Federal Trade Commission to ban the franchise territory. And the franchise territory is your protection that you work in, your sales territory. We can't sell in Knoxville's territory, they can't sell in ours. And here I jumped ahead of myself. The territory the bottling plants work in is the protected territory that the bottlers can sell in. They were concerned that the price structure was not the same for every bottling plant, and it wasn't. If they had, just for instance, Kroger chain, for example, may be served by 3 or 4 different bottling plants on all their chains that they have.
Right.
And the problem with that was the bottling plants had different price structures for different packages. And for 3 different packages, this was a real wake-up call for all the small businesses across the country. If you lose your franchise protection, you will only be left with the mom and pop stores, barbershops, service stations, and there's nothing wrong with them, but that's not the meat of your business.
Right.
The meat of your business is the chain stores. And they're the major buyers of your product. If you lose them, you lose the major piece of your business.
Were you still working there when all this started going on?
Yes, I was. All the small bottlers at that time really took a hard look at the situation and decided to sell out to the bigger bottlers. It was to take what you can while you can get it and bail out. As hard as it was, that's when my brother and I left the company. And I think we stayed there for maybe 6 months or a year after it sold out. And then we just decided to bail out because things were a lot different, and it was going in a different direction.
Right.
And so we bailed out, and I was 33 at that time. And
Young man.
well, yeah, I sure was.
Is that when you started the hardware?
Yeah. We fumbled around for like 2 years and wasted a lot of money.
I know.
Then we went in the hardware store. Bob's father-in-law, Warren Bowman, ran the hardware store with his partner, Lee Crabtree. And they were old and ready to retire. And I mean, still had a good business going on, but they were ready to retire. And so Bob came to me and said, "Hey, what do you think about buying the hardware store?" He said, "We're fresh blood." He said, "I think we can grow it." And as reluctant as I was, I decided to go ahead and join him and to do it, and we did. And for like 2.5, 3 years, we grew the business, and we were at that happy medium where you weren't going to get big, but you had come too far to give up.
Yeah.
And then right after that, Potter's Ace came in up there in the valley, going toward Harriman, and that took a chunk of business because everybody goes to new stores because they've got big store, twice as much as we had.
Latest and greatest stuff.
Yeah, and then Walmart came in, and it just slowly closed our door. So we
the thing when I was in high school, all the people would stop there and play that Coke bottle game.
Oh yeah, far away.
Yeah, play far away.
That was a big thing. You know, we had a vending machine up front, and at that time, all the 6.5 ounce bottles had states on the bottom of them. And you go in there and put a quarter in, buy a Coke, and usually matched for $1 to see who was furthest away, and whoever was furthest away won the money.
Yeah, I remember people doing that.
That was one of the great things about that 6.5 ounce bottle that no longer exists.
It tastes good. That's the best tasting one ever.
You know, all the little bottlers around, you had, you had Cookville, which was Jim Carlin. You had, there used to be a bottling plant in Dayton, believe it or not.
I didn't know that.
There used to be a bottling plant in Maryville. There was a bottling plant in, what am I trying to think of? Etowah. It was run by Harless Johnson. And of course, you had the bottling plant in Cleveland, which was Sam Colbert, and the bottling plant in Chattanooga, which was Skip Brightwell. And they were all super people. We'd meet in Chattanooga maybe once a quarter and have what we call a cuss and discuss meeting, you know, talk about what kind of problems they were having, what they were doing about it, and we'd talk about our problems, what help us find a way to deal with them, and it was just a good thing, you know. And every time you went in another bottling plant, you always found a better idea to do things than the way you were doing them. And I loved going and visiting other plants because you always came home with better ideas and better ways to do things.
Right. And that Coke plant's been one of a huge part of Rockwood's history.
It has.
Just so many people raise families working there, and just awesome place.
My dad used to laugh. He used to say, I think everybody in Rockwood has worked at the Coke plant one time or another one. A lot of people worked there and
raised their kids there, and it's just a lot of history. I know. I'm sure you still have some of the bottles and all that stuff.
I have some stuff. After we left, probably about 3 or 4 years after we left, I just kind of lost interest, you know.
Yeah.
And I very seldom ever went back down to the bottling plant. And then they moved out. They moved the machinery out and then took the bottling line to Cleveland and put it in over there. Of course, they didn't have a can line. We bought all our cans from Chattanooga.
Okay.
And they had a cannery down there, and it was amazing to go down there and watch that thing operate.
But that was high speed back then.
Oh, high speed, no kidding. Let me get into the everyday things at the Coke plant.
Okay.
We got into the management. That was Charles E. Cole and James T. Cole, my dad and my uncle, and they were just gifted. They could do anything. They could get anything accomplished and make it happen. And then we had accounting. We had Verda Alverson, who was brilliant in accounting. Mike Alverson's dad. Yep. And we had Bill Kelly, and he worked in accounting also. And then we had an office staff that consisted of early days. Now, this is Marie King was there early on, and then we had Sandy Carbo, Teresa Anderson, Margaret Cole, Rebecca Hall, Melody Peters. Bob worked in the office, Judy Emery, Ruth Kleiss, and they did it. They made it happen. I mean, they did all the bookkeeping, they did the payroll, they did all the banking and accounting, and it's just unreal what they accomplished.
A lot of good people in that list.
Oh yes, there is, and they were amazing. I tell you, everybody at the Coca-Cola Bottling Works was like a big family.
Oh yeah.
I mean, everybody loved everybody. They'd do anything they could to help anybody. Now, the office staff, they checked the stock. They counted our inventory first thing in the morning and the last thing in the afternoon. They counted it from every package we had, every empty we had, down to bottles and cases. Now, that's a lot of counting.
Oh yeah.
But that was your checkup system.
This is pre-scanning or any kind of computer inventory.
Oh, we didn't have anything like that then. I mean, you did it all on paper. My Uncle Jimmy finally put a computer in, and that was a whole nother story. I mean, they had to build a special room for it that was air conditioned, and that thing was big as this table here. Cranked out all that paper, and that was another story, doing all that data entry and putting all that stuff in and bringing it all online. And in sales, which is the meat of your business, sales manager was Ned C. Munger. And then you also had Herschel Friels, Jimmy Davison, myself, Mac Evans. And Herschel Friels, I just can't tell you enough about him. He was a country boy.
Yeah, my dad loved him.
But I'm going to tell you what, that man was brilliant. I'd go to marketing seminars with him in Atlanta or Chattanooga or wherever, and these instructors would stand up and give you these problems to work out on the percentages, and it was complicated. And they would say, okay, I'm going to give you a few minutes to work this out, and then I'll come back and see who's got the right answer. Herschel Friels would raise his hand up and snap the answer to him, and they couldn't believe it. He did it in his head.
Wow.
And they were just amazed. And he was something I really loved working with him, and I worked real close with him. In vending, we had Carl Hagler was over the vending department. That's placing your vending machines and
maintenance and all that.
Repair, yes, repair, and that was a big thing. And we had vending machines all over the territory, and we bought our machines from Cavalier. Part of them we bought them from Cavalier in Chattanooga. And to go down to Cavalier and watch them assemble those vending machines, and they had all different kind of models, was just amazing. And sometimes we'd go down there and pick them up, and sometimes they'd bring them in on a truck. And they were all crated up. You'd have to uncrate them and bring them to life. You'd have to put the changer in. And depending on what product you want to put in that vending machine, the bottle sizes really had a impact on how you set that machine up, because you'd have to use spacers in the slots for the different bottle sizes, because Sprite was a fat bottle, and the flavor bottles were narrow.
Right.
And that was a lot. And we had vending machines all over the whole territory. And when they put I-40 in, you don't know how that affected our sales, because people used to travel 70, 27. We had vending machines all through Rockwood at all the service stations, all the way down the road, mom and pops. We had vending machines everywhere, all the way up from Kingston all the way to the Loudoun County line. And when they put 70 in, or 40 and 75,
shut that down.
it killed it.
Yep.
It just killed it. I don't know how many vending machines we had to go pick up, and how many mom and pop stores went out. You go up, drive the old road to Knoxville now, and you can see where all the old
you can
stores
see those
used to
skeletons.
be. Yeah, and
Go out 70, like through Westall, there's
it was
2 or 3 stores right there.
It was all gone. Every bit of it left, and that was a hard lick. And we had a sign department, and that was a biggie. And the sign department consisted of John Collett, and James Cooley. James Cooley,
Sign company. Yep.
Yeah, they could do anything. We had a state-of-the-art paint booth down there with a circulating water bath, and we would paint our trucks there. When they needed to be painted, we'd pull them in the wash bay, wash them down, sand them. James Cooley would tack rag them all over, pull them in that paint booth, and he'd paint them. We used Emron paint, chip-proof paint. And then when we got them painted, Cooley would go back in there and use a pounce pattern, I don't know what you call it, just a
stencil.
Stencil, and take the graphite and pounce, had little holes in it, and then he would come in and freehand paint.
That's what I was talking about. Did he do the logo on the doors and stuff?
Yeah, he'd do it all. And eventually we got decals for all that. But back in the day, I mean, he did great. He was an excellent freehand painter. I loved him to death. He was good. John Collett, good, God bless his heart. He was a man from the old school. He could do anything. And I worked in the sign department some. We'd go out and we'd buy steel poles off of old guy over here on River Road. He had a scrap yard down there, and he'd sell us these 6-inch steel poles, and we'd go down there and pick them up in an old flatbed truck and take them back and configure them to hang a sign on. And then we'd go out and dig a hole, pour concrete in there, let it set up, and then go back and hang a sign on it, and run Romex up if it was a lighted sign, which most of them, that's what they wound up being.
And all that stuff now is huge in the collecting world, all those signs. And
well, we had those old metal porcelain enamel signs. You know, it was metal with porcelain over it, white porcelain. And you would build the sign according to how big a space you wanted to put it on the building. We had racks that you'd work off of, and you could build it and lay it out, and then we'd mount a bracket to the building and then go hang the sign on the bracket. And they lettered them with these letters that you'd wet and lay them out in block form, and like decals.
Yeah.
And then we had a round bullet or round disc signs that you put on there, and letter them, and that was old school. That was old.
Yeah, you just didn't call Coke and order new signs. You had to make them.
Yeah, you could. Those things, no telling what they'd go for now.
Oh yeah, that's big money now.
How many painted building signs did you have?
Painted building signs? Yeah, painted billboards. Quite a few. There's still one on the old hardware store building down there. It's just about faded out. But we used to Cooley used to go out and paint those. And if it was a great location and a eye-catching place, we'd ask permission to put one up, and we'd go put one up.
So Cooley probably painted that originally on the Rockwood hardware?
Yeah, yep, he did. That's what he did. He was amazing. Sign department, let's see, trucks. We had a garage down there. I know your daddy's familiar with it. We had a garage down there that we could fix anything. If a truck broke down, we could rebuild the engine. We could rebuild the transmission. We could do rear end work, change tires, brakes, whatever it took. We were equipped to do it in that garage. Had the transmission jacks, the engine jacks, the jack stands, whatever it took, it was there. They could weld, they could braze, they could do anything. And in that garage, early day, we had Johnny McAnally. His sons lived around here in Eureka, and then we had Peck Pelfrey. He lived out on Dry Hill Road, and we had Tommy Hunter, Roy Gallion, and they were amazing. If we had a truck breakdown, just say truck broke down in Oneida, we'd go get it. We didn't call a wrecker. We had a bar longer than this table right here, and it was probably about that big around, a big piece of pipe, and it had chain bolted on each end of it. And we'd take that old flatbed truck we had, take that bar up there, and we'd hook it to the front of the truck that was broke down, and hook it to the flatbed, and we'd tow that truck.
Pull it home.
We'd pull it in. The driver had to stay in there and operate the brakes. But other than that, we did our own towing. We did it all. And we had, getting down to our janitors, Jim Fritz was there for years doing janitor work, and he was a wonderful person, an old fella, and but he did a great job. And then Sterling Miller, Ratchet's daddy, came in, and he was a janitor for, when I left, he was still there. We had outside utility men, and that was Eugene Summerall, Eugene Crudup, David Mallicote, Freddie Kelby, Billy Ray Kelby, and Willis Lane. And they could do anything. I mean, they took care of all the maintenance, all the grounds. They mowed down here.
Yeah.
matter of fact. And they could jump in and do anything. I mean, they could help on a truck. They could whatever you needed.
Yeah, sounds like y'all did it all in-house.
We did.
Everything.
We did everything we could in-house. And in our bottling room, we got a new bottle washer. And the other one just was worn out. And we ordered this thing, went to a machinery show in Chicago at McCormick Place, and found what we wanted. That was Jimmy Cole's job. He was the man on that, and he picked out what he wanted, and we got it ordered. Well, it came in on a rail car, spurred it right down there on a rail car, and right down from where Ken's Body Shop was, and so we had to get the old bottle washer out, get the new bottle washer in, but at the same time we had to accumulate enough product
Keep rolling.
to do us while we could make that change. And that was a nightmare. We had product everywhere. But we contracted S.L. Bowman and Son, Sandy, Jack, Tom, and their crew to come down there, and we had to take the glass out of the front of that building. Had to have Knoxville come down and take it out. They went in, got the old bottle washer jacked up. Of course, you had to move conveyor belts. They got the old bottle washer jacked up, brought it out through that window. I don't remember where they took it, but then they had to go over to the rail car and get the new bottle washer and bring it over and put it back through the window and get it back in there and set up exactly where it needed to be. And they did. I mean, they did a great job. It was a job, but they did a great job.
Got you back up and running?
Got us back up, but we started having problems with the bottle washer. Come to find out, it was a wide load on that flat car. It had gotten sideswiped by another train. And long story short, it had been a shaft in there that run the belt that the bottles
got knocked off.
Just knocked it out of plumb, and that was our problem. And so we had to get a new shaft, get it put in, and get back in business. And that was a real feat. But it was all in a day's work. Did I tell you about the bottling superintendent, Jimmy Fickey?
No. You mentioned him before we started, but
Okay, but Jimmy Fickey was our bottling superintendent.
he lived not far from where we're sitting.
I could look right over there if the leaves were off the trees and see his house. And he was wonderful. He was wonderful. He was so precise in everything he did. And he was great at quality control. And we had Jimmy Fickey, and the bottling line started back inside the plant there, and you would bring the cases up. You'd take the bottles out of the cases, put the bottles on the conveyor belt. They would go through. It would go through and it'd feed the washer. The washer had racks, all these bottle holes. It'd feed the bottles right in the bottle holes. The washer would take them through and wash them. Then they would come out on the other end, and they come down the line, and that was an inspection, visual inspection and an electronic inspection to make sure the bottles were clean, wasn't any problem with them, wasn't any chips.
Prior to filling?
Yes,
Yep.
And then they would come right on around and go into the filler. You know, you've been there. Go right into the filler, and the stirrups would raise the bottle up, they would get filled, and then they'd come back down, they'd come around, and they go into the crowner, and they'd hit the crowner, then they'd come down and crimp tops on all the bottles until we got screw tops in and screw them on. And then they would go out from there and go to the packer. And the packer would load them into cases. And we had 24 pocket cases, which was your, like if you're going to load a vending machine, you want 24 pocket cases. You don't want cartons. And then we had 4 pocket carton cases, and that was for like sales and beverage sections at stores and things. And Dad did the hiring, and one day he had this guy come in and came up to the window at the office, and he said, "I want a job." And So he didn't talk plain. He talked with a strong accent. He had his lunch bag with him. And
He's ready to go to work, wasn't he?
he was. And so they told Dad. Dad came out there and talked to him and interviewed him. And he said, well, we don't have anything right now, but he said, I'll get in touch with you when we do. Said, I feel sure we can use you, but I'll get in touch with you when we do. Next morning, he shows up and he says, I want to go to work. I want a job. He did that 3 days with his lunch bag. Dad said, my God, this man wants to work. Said, we're going to put his ass to work. I'm sorry, but
You're fine.
we're going to put his ass to work. And so they did. They put him in the bottling room. And I tell you what, he made one of the most loyal, dependable employees that you've ever seen. He was a Hungarian refugee, had a wife and 2 kids, and he was just super. I mean, he was the most polite, energetic person that I've ever met. And he did a great job. And I guess he stayed there until the bottling plant sold out and they did away with the bottling line. And I don't know where he went after that.
Wow.
Because I just kind of faded out.
Just think of all the people that's went through there working that you don't remember. That, and if you had a book,
I can name
blow
some
your
of them
mind.
right now from position to position to position because they rotated.
Yeah.
Like every 30 minutes, they would leave the quality control scan line there, where they were checking the bottles coming through for cleanliness, and they would go to another position and they'd rotate around. And they gave everybody a break because that sitting up there watching bottles is hard.
It'd be hard to do.
It's hard. And but they cranked out a lot of product. And just to give you an idea of what the packages we had 24 pocket cases that I just explained and 4 pocket cases that the cartons go in. And on returnable Coke alone, we had 6.5 ounce, 10 ounce, 16 ounce, and 32 ounce. And
This is all glass.
this is all glass returnable bottles with a deposit. In Fanta, we had 10 ounce returnable. We had 10 ounce returnable grapefruit, orange, Sprite, and Tab. These are returnables. In Dr. Pepper, we had 6.5 ounce Dr. Pepper, 10 ounce Dr. Pepper, and 32 ounce Dr. Pepper, all returnables. In throwaways, we had 10 ounce throwaway bottle and Coke, and 32 ounce plastic bottle. And in the flavors, we had 10 ounce throwaways. Dr. Pepper, we had 10 ounce throwaway, 2 liter throwaway, and we had the 2 liters in Coke, Dr. Pepper, Sprite, Diet Dr. Pepper, and Tab. Excuse me. And in Dr. Pepper returnables, I don't know if I mentioned that or not, we had 6.5 ounce, 10 ounce, 32 ounce. Cans, we had Coke, Dr. Pepper, Diet Dr. Pepper, Sprite, Fanta Grape, Fanta Orange, Tab, and Diet Coke.
Wow.
That was a lot of packages. A lot of packages to keep inventory for.
A lot of lifting.
Yeah.
All those empties.
Let me get a drink of water here.
Okay.
That's good water. Pat Roddy used to come through Rockwood from Knoxville Bottling, Roddy Manufacturing. He was an old man, and but he was a spark plug. He was a hell raiser. But he would come through, and he always came through. He'd stop at the Coke plant and talk to Dad and get a Coke, and he'd say, "Charlie Cole said you got the best damn Coca-Cola I've ever drunk." It was because we bottled off spring water down there. We got water out of the spring down here, and of course that changed when they went to city water. The spring water was different, and but Pat Roddy used to rave about the Rockwood Coca-Colas.
Yeah, I was fond of it too.
Yeah. Let's see. I was going to say something else. Now that I lost my train of thought here. Let's see. Let me look over here just a minute. Oh, in the bottling room, you bottle with syrup. And for all these different flavors, you've got to have all that different syrup. And we had a syrup room upstairs, and we'd get our syrup in 55-gallon stainless steel barrels. And we'd buy Coke syrup, we'd buy Forever flavor, all the flavors, Tab, everything. And we'd keep those barrels upstairs, and a truck would back in from Cocoa, Atlanta, and unload these barrels, and we'd put them on the elevator and take them up to the second floor. And that's where we had the syrup room. And when they bottled Coca-Cola, you'd take these barrels and you roll them around. We had a lift, and it would lift them up. It had a turntable that would spin them. You'd roll them down the rack, and you put the probe in there to pick up the syrup. And for Coca-Cola, you might have 6 or 8 barrels up there for bottling Coca-Cola. And then when they'd empty, you'd roll them back down, and Coca-Cola would come back and pick them up.
Go back to Atlanta.
Yep, you had to do that for every flavor. And when we bought Dr. Pepper, we had to mix our syrup. It came in boxes of concentrate. And each box was called a batch. And it had 2 gallons of liquid in it and 2 bags. And we had this, I don't remember how many gallons this tank held, but depending on, Jimmy Fickey would tell you how many batches he wanted to bottle that day. So you'd have to go up and mix that many batches. And for every batch, you put so many gallons of water in that tank, and you had a flow meter there. So you'd set your flow meter to how many gallons you wanted to run in that tank. You'd fill that tank up, and then you'd start dumping. You'd set your cases out so you know exactly how many batches you had going in that water. And then you start undoing caps, dumping the liquid in there, opening the bags, dumping the bags in there, putting them in the box, setting them back over here so you could recount.
A lot goes into a Dr. Pepper back then.
A lot goes into a Dr. Pepper. And then after we got it all dumped in there, we had to put sugar in. And you had so many bags of sugar for so many batches of product. So we had a lift. Kind of crude, but it worked. You'd set the bag of sugar in there. You'd hook a vice grip, one of these wide vice grip clamps, to the bottom of the bag so the bag wouldn't fall in the mixture. And you'd open the top of the bag carefully not to shred the paper, and then you'd hit a button and it would raise the bag up and tilt it over and dump that sugar into the vat. Because if you didn't, you'd have to lift them up there.
Yeah.
And you're putting a lot of sugar in there. And then after you got it all in there, and you'd turn the agitator on, and it would agitate. It'd have to agitate it had a big impeller on the bottom of it, and it would have to agitate for so long. And then after it was agitated enough, he was ready to bottle, and so he could start bottling Dr. Pepper.
Have that stuff tasting the same every batch.
Oh yeah, I mean, see, that's when it comes out of there and goes into the filler. It's mixed with carbonated water, and it's given the carbonation comes from the carbonated water, and that's what gives the bottle its burp. And we had a big tank down there, and this truck from Liquid Carbonics would come and put these big old blocks of dry ice in there, and then close that door, seal it back up, and that's what
made the gas.
You got your carbonation. Nobody realizes what was involved in this process.
I've learned a lot today.
We finally smartened up and built on upstairs, and I can't remember the capacity of the tank that we got, but it was big. We had a tank put in for Coca-Cola syrup only, and we started getting our syrup from bulk from Atlanta, and they bring the tank up there and just pump it up they bring the truck up there and just pump it up into the tank, and that way we didn't have to fool with the barrels on Coca-Cola, and that was a big help. Let's see what else I've got here. I know there's a lot of stuff I'm leaving out. Our vending machines, I think I told you, most of them were Cavalier from Chattanooga. We had Beverage Air. They were open top slide door coolers that would go under the counter.
Yeah.
And we sold them to,
It's like you'd see it Live and Let Live.
we'd sell them to stores and beer joints. Beer joints loved them. And the other ones we sold for to sell Coca-Cola with, we'd let them pay rent on them till they got them paid off. They had to buy them. And the beer coolers, we made them pay for them up front because you don't know how many beer joints burn down. You know, if you don't have your money on the cooler, you've lost. And let's see. See, I went through the highway coming through and taking all of our business from drinks. Along with the vending, we had ice machines that we sold restaurants, and it had 5 spouts on it for premix, and they had ice in there, and then they could pull it right up and fill
For fountain drink.
Fill the drink for fountain drinks. And we bought those things, and I don't remember who we got them from, but they worked great. They had a cold plate in the bottom of the ice machine, so the ice would lay on the cold plate, and your flavors would run through that cold plate, so when they come out, they wouldn't foam up. And we had special vent machines that were pre-mix, and we'd take them to like concession stands, fairs, Roane County Park for picnic, you know, and we could hook the tanks up in series for each flavor and to make sure they wouldn't run out. Had CO2 cylinder to pump the product into out through the valves, and we filled our own CO2 tanks. We had a filler for them. We had a machine in the back of the plant back there that filled the premix tanks, and it was similar to the way the bottling machine ran that filled the bottles, but this was filling tanks, 5-gallon tanks, stainless steel tanks with the product.
Wow.
And you could feel, I'm trying to think, I think you could run 12 of them at a time when you filled them, because you had them on pallet. And
What's the most people work down there at one time, you think, in its heyday?
gosh, Scotty, I don't have a clue. I would think right around 50 something, but don't hold me to that because I'm not sure. But I'll tell you, our route staff and our bottling staff and everybody, it was like a big family. One thing I want to go over is the routes, and let's see where that is. We had routes and route drivers, and these people have changed over the years. Back in the early day, there were different drivers, and then as they left, new people came in, and I want to go through the routes with you. We had route number 1 was Red Long, Claude Long. Do you know Red?
Yes.
Okay. And he ran the Harriman route and covered everything in Harriman. And these routes, your chain stores, you'd work them 3 times a week. Your little stores and service stations usually once a week. If you had a mom and pop store that was doing pretty good, you may work it twice a week. And number 2 route was Albert Davis. He ran Oneida. And Albert was he was a very people-oriented person. He was a good guy. I'll tell you a funny story about him if we got time.
You do.
Caught him up there with a helper riding in the truck. They're not supposed to have anybody riding in the truck with them. That's a liability. You know, if there's an accident, they can come back on you.
Yeah.
Warned him about it, told him, said, now, Albert, nobody riding in the truck. What he would do, he had this helper with him that would go in and sort his bottles. Now, this is back in the day when you had all these returnable packages. And if you went to a chain store to work them, you'd have to go in and sort your bottles. Size, color, like the 6 1/8 ounce, that was easy to sort. But they would be mixed in with the 10-ounce bottles. Any way they came in, that's the way they stacked them back there. You had to go in and sort all those bottles out. Your flavors may be mixed with your Sprite, and you just had to sort it all out to size and color.
Then bring it back to Rockwood.
Yeah, and then you'd have to tell the store man how many empties you had and see if he wanted to fill those empties. And usually he'd say, yeah. And you might say, well, you were running a little low on Sprite. Do you want a few more Sprite? Yeah, okay. And these drivers today, they leave out, they've got a ticket. When they pull up to the store, they know exactly what to roll in that store because somebody's already gone around taking a pre-order.
Yeah.
They don't have to sort bottles. Everything's throwaway. They sell them cans. They sell them the throwaway packages, and they don't have to worry about that. We had 32 ounce. When we introduced the 32 ounce returnable, we didn't have enough room on the truck for the empties because you have
big package.
That's a big bottle, and so what we had to do, we had to carry the empties on top of the truck. So we had racks built on top of the truck to put the empties in, and it would hold 2 cases wide and then all the way across. And that was a job, getting the empties up there. And these guys were good. They'd learn how to throw them up there and not turn them over.
Yeah.
And they could almost stack them in place.
Wow.
And it was a mess. You'd have to do that till you made enough room on your bay to start putting your empties in. And Albert had a helper, and he'd go around and sort his bottles for him at the stores, the chain stores. And but he got to where he was carrying him with him on the truck, and told him, said, "Now, don't catch you doing that again." Told that helper, said, "Don't you ride in that truck." Said, "If you do, you're gonna get him fired."
Yeah.
So went up there one day and sneaking around, and sure enough, there was Jimmy riding in the truck with Albert. Called him in a restaurant up there after I'd already seen him riding with him, and I walked in there, and he looked like he'd seen a ghost, and that little old boy couldn't talk plain, but he was a good worker for Albert. But he looked at me and he said, "You make me fire, I fire on my own." I said, "You just fired on your own." And I said, "If you get in that truck with him again, he's going to fire on his own."
Yeah.
So I don't care if you go around and sort his bottles, but stay out of that truck. Albert, he was all right. I told him, I said, "If you catch him in there again, Albert, your ice is gone." Number 3 was Junior Ralston, Clucker Ralston. His nickname was Clucker. He ran Oliver Springs, Wattsburg, Petros, Brushy Mountain Prison, Fort Mountain, Devonia, Smoky Junction, and Deer Lodge. And these weren't places you'd go every day.
No.
You may
How long would that take to run that route right there, that one, if you left Rockwood?
Well, it just depended on where he was going on the route. They usually get back by 5:30 or 6.
So it's all-day adventure out on that route.
And you'd eat these country stores out there. That's where you'd eat lunch. They'd make you Spam sandwich or something. I used to love to go with him on this route. And we got vending machines in the prison up there in Brushy Mountain. And we worked it out where we could put 2 vending machines in the red building up there. I don't know if you ever went through the tour or not.
No, I haven't.
But as you go into prison up to the right, they called it the red building. It's a red brick building. And we put can machines up there. And that was pretty profitable. But
for the inmates?
Yeah, I guess.
Anyone?
I don't know. I mean, they were in there where the machines were. I guess it was.
Yeah.
But number 4 out was Rockwood. That was Jesse Hurst. He ran Rockwood. He's a good worker. Number 5, Crossville. When I left, Greg Hall was running that route. You know Greg Hall?
Yeah.
Kingston was Ken Musser. He was a good guy. He worked all of Kingston. Number 7 was Ples Rollins. He worked Eagle Furnace, UT Road, Red Cloud, Terrace View, Blue Springs, the whole boat dock route. Parts of Spring City, Shut-In Gap Mountain, Gracie Cove, Grandview, and Homestead. Shut-In Gap, you know where that is?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's another story within a story, but anyway, there's 2 stops up there, and you would be surprised how many drinks you'd leave up there.
I bet.
There's a ton. Number 8 route was Bill Pelfrey, Wormy Pelfrey. Did you ever know Wormy?
No.
Did you know him? Wormy was a character. He's the only person at the Coca-Cola Bottling Works that had 4 one-year pins. He'd been fired 4 times, and he worked a year to get another pin.
And come back.
Yeah.
Y'all must have liked him.
Oh, God, I loved him. Wormy got called in one time. It was Christmas, and he ran Lansing, Pilot Mountain, Sunbright, Bearville, Elgin, Robbins, Helenwood, Huntsville, and Rugby. They called in on him one time in Huntsville. Somebody did, and said, "Hey, you got a Coca-Cola man up here that's drunk." Said it was Christmas, and said he's telling everybody Merry Christmas and giving them a Coke. And he said, they just called in. They was afraid he's going to wreck the truck or something, you know. So Pud and myself jumped in the truck and took off up there. And we went over the whole route, everywhere we could think of in Huntsville,
Trying to find
him, and we never could find him. And in the mornings, the drivers would go out there in the room by the office. They had tables out there and calculators, and they would check up. And I went behind Wormy and went in the back room back there to get another pad of checkup sheets. Wormy never looked up and he said, "Had a dry run last night, didn't you?" I said, "Damn sure did." I said, "You gonna have another one-year pen if we catch your eyes." But
He knew you were looking for him.
oh yeah, he knew somebody had hid him and the truck, and I don't know where they hid. We went everywhere and couldn't
When was
find
this? Was this in the 70s?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I don't remember.
Probably.
Probably. Okay, that's Wormy Pelfrey. Number 9 route was Bill Futrell, Boo Boo. He ran Midtown, Kingston, Highway 70 to the county line, South Harriman, some of Highway 27 toward Oliver Springs. Number 10 was James Rogers, and that was Coca-Cola route. And he ran Lenore City, did all of Lenore City. Then you had number 11, and that route covered Loudon, that went all the way to Chilhowie Dam, Greenback, Von Orr, Madisonville, and Madisonville. And one day, James Rogers over in Lenore City, I don't know if you know a lot about Lenore City or not, but if you come down off C Street, all the streets were named, if you come down off C Street and you turn back on Main Street, that's a sharp turn.
Yeah.
Somehow, he left the bay door open. And he came down and made that turn.
Glass.
The whole bay door went out. Glass went everywhere. Shut the whole highway down. It was, there you are. You got your truck parked there, and there's product all over the road, and glass. And so the city people come and helped him clean it up. And boy, what a mess it was. But they helped him clean it up. Same thing happened to Jim Lovelace, Vanessa's husband. He was running that route at one time and did the same thing.
I never knew that Rockwood branched out that far. All those different directions.
See, that's when they bought Dr. Pepper plant. That's where it went. It happened to me over at Sedine Bible Camp. He left the bay door up, and I didn't go around and check it. I should have. It's my fault. And you're talking about gravel roads over there. And I went out and I hit a bump in that truck. And when it hit that bump, it rocked over and it rocked back over. and flavors went out. Ned's orange and grape
Mayor,
broke all over the grass, all over the gravels, all that glass out of those gravels. Now that, I could have killed that sucker. But anyway, okay, number 12 was parts of Morgan County and parts of Scott County. And guess who ran that? Tim Evans. And then we had a premix route. Charles Noe ran it, and our premix department was these 5-gallon tanks, that were for restaurants. So he worked all of those. So his route consisted of working all the restaurants all over the territory, and he'd do, so many places, so many days in so many places. And then we had a sanitizing route because on those premix machines, they had to be sanitized because that product would mold if it wasn't cleaned regularly. And so the restaurant people
Fountain machines.
Yeah, the restaurant people would clean it pretty good, but then we had a route set up for sanitizing over the whole system, and James Stringfield did that. We had this little roll-around cart that heated water up, and you put your sanitizing fluid in, and you could hook your hose to the product lines and flush them through and take the valves. Yeah, take the valves off and clean them. Oh, let's see here. I know I'm wasting time, but we had Atlanta would send a quality control up, and I don't remember how often they would come up, but they would bring a trailer. The guy pulled a trailer behind his car, and they'd back in there at the Coke plant where the office parking was back in there, and he would go through your bottling operation and check everything out. He would check the chlorine content after you'd sanitized, and he was a super guy, but he would check your carpet. He'd go out and pick a bottle off the floor and come back and put it in this thing and shake it up and see how much carbonation was, what the pressure was, and they'd check the content, the ratio of syrup to water, and they did a great job. Of course, Jimmy Fickey was the key to that because everything was right. And let's see, every year we had a Coca-Cola picnic, and we had it down here. And I'm trying to find the sheet. Okay. My dad and my uncle, C.E. and James T. Cole, they bought this acreage down here on Watts Bar Lake, and it was waterfront and had a pavilion where we are now, and always had a big Coca-Cola picnic every summer, and it was a big event. You could bring your family, you could bring kin folks. Red Long always held the record for bringing the most people, but Bill Miles and Jim Abels cooked the chicken at the Cafe. This whole table would be full of chicken and ham, platters mounded up, chicken, ham. Then there was all the side dishes down through here and desserts. You can't imagine. These benches were out here for people to sit on, and we had church benches from Pud's Church down there, Asbury Methodist. They put new benches in, and we had them stored over in that building. We'd bring them down here and set them up. We had icebox coolers down through full of drinks. It was a big deal, big deal. And after you'd worked at the plant long enough to be deemed trustworthy, you were given the key to the gate up there on the lock, and you could bring your family down for a picnic or to fish or whatever you wanted to do. And they took care of it because they knew people were down here regular, and if it was trashed, they wouldn't be back. And we had a big fish fry down here once a year, and I've still got a black skillet my daddy had made at the old stove foundry over there, and it's this tall, it's this wide, and it's this long, and it just fit that firebox over there. And we'd get those slabs from Turner Day out there in Cross from the Handle Factory, hickory slabs, and we'd fill that wood box up down there with hickory slabs, and we'd come down here and build a fire, put that skillet on there, put grease in there. And we had catfish we used to get off Boot Butler over here and feed the whole, anybody that wanted to come was welcome to come. But the women had to be out of here at a certain time because when they left, that's when the cards and the dice broke out. We had beer, whatever they wanted to drink, but the women had to leave at a certain time. And that would turn into a fun time. There'd be a lot of knees worn on people's britches from shooting dice, and they'd set crown boxes up side by side on these, or end to end on these tables and roll dice into them, and a lot of money swapped hands. And at the picnic, after Johnson bought it, they would bring the helicopter up here, the Coca-Cola helicopter. I think they did that one time. And we'd land it right over there. And anybody that wanted to go for a helicopter ride could go. They'd take them for a ride. And I can't believe they didn't wear the rotors out on that thing, riding people around. I mean, they'd take them 2 and 3 times, whatever they wanted to do. They'd fly them around the lake, and over Rockwood, come back and land. And that was fun. And at Christmas time, Herschel Friel's dressed up in a Santa Claus suit, and they'd pick him up, and they'd land up there at the ball field. And Friels would get out and wave at everybody and get on the fire truck and then ride downtown.
I can remember that.
Yep, and that was something Johnson did. It was fun, and. Okay, I'm just about through.
Okay.
But I wanted to give you a kind of a heads up as to what it was like growing up in a Coca-Cola Bottling Works family as a young kid. And it was a playground for my brother and I.
I'll bet.
I mean, we were all over that
You're raised
plant.
down there.
We were raised down there, and people that were down there, John Collett, Carl Hegler, Red Long, Pudmonger, and I can name more, were like our second fathers.
Yep.
They just took care of us, and that's where I learned my mechanical ability, and I think learned how to care about things and care about people and be responsible for what you did growing up with them, because that's the way they were.
Yeah, there's good guys right there.
Yes, they were, and we lived on Douglas Avenue, probably a block and a little bit more from the Coke plant. And when I grew up and really got on up to where we could work around there, we'd work there. And after school was out for the summer, we'd work down there, and sometimes after school. And we worked as helpers on bottling truck, helpers in the bottling process in the bottling room. We washed trucks on Saturdays, and we worked in the sign department. We worked with James Cooley, sanding trucks to be painted, and we worked on vending repair. We kept all kind of parts for vending machines. The micro switches on the buttons were. We had all them, because people would beat on the buttons. If a Coke product didn't come out quick enough, they'd beat the button. And changers always got dirty. You'd have to change out the changers or clean them. We mowed and did maintenance around the buildings.
Bob right there with you.
Oh, yeah. We worked as helpers on the trucks. We worked in the office as needed. They had pads. Every driver had a pad his ticket that he filled out when taking an order, and we'd stamp them. And let's see, we worked upstairs mixing Dr. Pepper. We both mixed Dr. Pepper syrup. We ran delivery routes. This is after we got on up to age to do that. And then Bob worked in the office, and washing premix tanks back in the premix room, filling premix tanks with product, filling CO2 tanks, working to install new bottling equipment, wherever it was, conveyors, belts, a new piece of machinery or whatever. And I went in the Air Force, and I was in the Air Force for 4 years, and Bob was in the Army for 2, and he got out and came back to work, and I got out of the Air Force in 70, and I came home and went to work at the bottling plant and worked there till 1980. And I read you the reason for the sale of the bottling plant. And of course, I was 33 when I bailed out, and he was too. It was a joint decision. We wrote letters of resignation and skipped on down the road. And and I guess that's about it. I mean, I could sit here and tell you stories all day.
Yeah. You wouldn't change a thing, would you?
I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change a thing. But after it sold, never was the same. And it just, you look back on it and you think, man, what a upbringing I had.
Yeah, and what a
piece
blessing. Of Rockwood history.
What a blessing
it was
to get to be raised up with all these people. It was just a big family.
All those people you named off.
Oh, Lord. And many more.
Oh, yeah.
Many more. It was just a blessing. And Scotty, I want to thank you for putting this together. And
Jim Cooley put it together.
Well, kind of give somebody an insight as to what happened down there for all those years and how successful it was and what a part of history it was. And it just kills
part of
me.
Rockwood.
Just kills me to drive out by that building down there now and seeing it look like it looks.
Yeah.
And if my daddy could see that, I don't know what he would do, but it was a well-oiled machine, I'll tell you that.
It sounds like it. Well, thanks for sitting down with us. I've enjoyed it. I learned a lot today. A lot of stuff I didn't know about the Rockwood Coke plant.
Well, thank you, and I'm sure when I get home, I'm going to start thinking of things that I should have brought up that I didn't.
We could go on for days talking about all that stuff.
Like my daddy always said, son, you can't pee backwards.
That's true.
If that's a good way to end.
We'll wrap this up and enjoy this pretty day we got down here on the lake. It's nothing better than old Coke Beach.
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye.
Get another drink of water there, Dick.
I'm going to. If you need to cut that last part out, you can.